Hello everybody, this is Dr. Pursley with Between Two Spines, Dr. Aaron Andrews. I know I said Dr. Pursley, but Dr. Greg Pursley called me Dr. G. It's just kind of a thing, that's what people, Dr. G. We are here today at the Marquette in downtown Cape, and we are talking with Laura Ritter here, and she's going to introduce us to something that she created a few years ago called the True Crimes Club in Cape Girardeau. Man, I thought I'd mess that up, but I did okay. But yeah, she's been here. How long have you been in Cape, by the way?
I grew up in Sykeston. I moved here for college and stayed.
Okay,
so I've been here quite a while.
So like 15 years at least, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
About that?
If I was a little older.
Yeah. Right. She is the founder of something you might have heard of, Ritter Real Estate, and she also started this. And we were talking a little bit before. I'm interested to see how she started it, why she started it, what it is, and all we want you to do is like, comment, and share. If you have questions, we can get them to her and we can get those answered. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the True Crimes Club, Cape Girardeau.
Yeah, how you got started.
Yeah,
Sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah, growing up, I was always interested in Nancy Drew. I read all the Nancy Drew books, the Hardy Boy books.
I was a Hardy Boy.
Yeah.
Did you read Hardy Boys?
I've got a bunch of those too. And Charlie's Angels. You know, I was always mystery books. I loved to read growing up. And then as I got older, I never kept up with like a Monday night show, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I had my kids and I would take care of them. Once I sat down, I usually end up watching 20/20, 48 hours, shows like that I would just happen to catch. So I've always been interested in true crime. To me, it's like a puzzle, and then also the psychology of it. So it's always just something I followed over the years. And a couple of years ago, because we're starting our third year of True Crime Club Cape Girardeau, a couple of years ago, I thought, you know, there's other people like me. I think there's not a club like this in Cape. I'm going to start one. So I put it on Facebook. That's where the page is, True Crime Club Cape Girardeau. And got some members, and we meet at least once a month. We talk about mostly local cases, but national cases, but there's always, unfortunately, something to talk about.
So how many people are in your club right now?
We have a dozen right now. If you are part of the club, I ask that you come to meetings when you can, that you research, that you comment on our Facebook page. It's not for the
Were you going to ask how to be part of it?
Yeah, I was going to ask if they could be part of it, if anybody could be part of it.
Go to the Facebook page, True Crime Club Cape Girardeau. It's a private Facebook page, and you can ask to join. There's 3 short little questions to answer, but that's how you can ask to join my crime club.
So if you guys are like in the back of your mind right now thinking about maybe creating or what's it called? Not doing a crime, creating a crime. what's the verb I'm thinking
Creating
of?
a crime?
Not creating, performing a crime, doing
Investigating a crime?
No,
Solving.
actually doing the crime, like bad people. What's the verb I'm trying to think? Commit. That's the word, committing a crime.
Yeah.
So if you are watching this and you're thinking about committing a crime, not only do you have to worry about the authorities,
Yes.
you have to worry about a Facebook group with a dozen people, now more,
Yes.
going to solve it. So
Yeah.
don't do it.
I wonder the percentage of crimes that are thought of or the ones that just occur. Because I feel like most crimes are like crimes of
Just passion,
opportunity.
spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Spur of the
Yeah.
moment.
What do you think? What have you found in researching crimes?
I think, yeah, several things are spur of the moment. In fact, I've got one case, my very first case. If we have time, I'll discuss tonight. It was a spur of the moment murder.
Oh.
And
Dun,
so,
dun, dun.
Let's talk about it. I know they want to hear it.
I wanna hear it.
Let's go over it.
2 years ago, I was driving back and forth to St. Louis once a week for 12 weeks. And that's when I started thinking about, you know what, I think I'm going to start a true crime club. There's not one in Cape, I'll start it. And as I drove back and forth those weekly trips to St. Louis, one particular case I just kept thinking about, and it was the murder of Monica Keenance. And Monica, this happened, I brought some notes with me, Halloween Day 2018 at the New Madrid rest area. Halloween Day, it was a Wednesday, it was a rainy day, it was around the lunch hour. Monica was 50, and 6 years prior, she started suffering from mental illness. And she had a loving family, but as many those suffering from mental illness, she would take her medication, get feeling better, and get off of it. Her particular thing that she suffered from was paranoia, extreme paranoia. It got to the point where Monica gave up permanent housing, cashed in her pension, bought an SUV, and she just traveled all over to avoid who she thought was chasing her. She didn't know who it was. But on this particular day, Monica was parked at the parking lot of the New Madrid rest area, on the far end as you can go, backed in, and around noon, again on a rainy day, SUV, red SUV, pulled up beside her. A witness saw a man and Monica outside her vehicle. The man shot her, walked back to the car, drove away in an old red SUV. Slowly drove away. And I just always thought about that case because I thought if somebody can pull up the interstate in the middle of the day, shoot a woman, and then calmly get back on, gosh, that one just kept tugging on me. So that became my first case.
How did you even hear about that case?
I always
reading
reading the paper, and it just learning her background. I felt for Monica, and I just felt I wanted to get the word out. So I always contact victims' family before I do anything to get their permission. So I contacted Monica's sister, Christy. Her husband is in law enforcement. They live up in Central Illinois. Sent her a message, sincere message. She replied, I had a lot of these messages, I want you to help. So I created a Facebook page. You can find that, Help Find the Murder of Monica Keylance. I appreciate it if you would like it because I think that shows support to the family. So I told Monica's story, like I just shared with you all. Fortunately, within a couple of weeks, we had a arrest.
Wow.
So it was in March of 2019. Elliot Bonner, who had ties to Sykeston, lived up in St. Louis. He was 27 at the time. He's 29 now. He was arrested, and so that was really a surprise. So that was great news. But here's what I'm most proud of. Here's the backstory. We knew he had been in a Texas jail since November 2018. So why was he in the Texas jail? And I ended up getting a man named Fabian reached out to me on Facebook, and he said, I can tell you why he was in jail in Texas at this time. And he said he had a conversation with Elliot and a girl he was with in Brady, Texas, at a convenience store. And Elliot had came up to him and said, got $50, and he said, no, you can go to this church, things like that. And you could tell Bonner didn't want to do that. And he said he was trying to get to Mexico, is what he told this gentleman named Fabian. And Fabian said, why'd you do something bad? And he said, yeah, I may have in Florida. Surprisingly, he said that. Fabian was in this convenience store because he was getting his oil change on his car next door. Just because of that conversation, unbelievably, he went and called the police, not 911. But the police showed up before Bonner took off. And he just said, suspicious person, I think he has a gun. That they showed up. A lot of police, some police wouldn't show up over that, just suspicious person, need more than that. But the police showed up before Bonner left. He was driving the red SUV that they knew was a stolen vehicle. He was a felon in possession of a gun, and he had possession of some kind of substance. So that's why he was arrested and detained, because that man spoke out. That's my favorite. That's amazing. And the police responded, and I was able to connect Monica's sister to Fabian. So that's my big thing. Now I've kept that page alive because we haven't had the trial date. When we do have the trial date, I will be there. But I keep Monica's story alive on the Facebook page for the followers. And Christy in her town in Central Illinois, she shares that with her town, and she has told me several times how much she appreciates that, people ask her if she can refer to the Facebook page.
Yeah. So did he admit to doing that?
I'm not sure if he admitted it, but he was in the vehicle, he had the gun, the case, like many cases, hasn't gone to trial yet because of COVID. So it keeps getting pushed back. Like many cases, I think, he could possibly plead. I think a lot of the cases, when they eventually get back to having jury trials, he could possibly plead.
It's just interesting to have a club where you guys are talking about things, and then things occur and get solved, or at least move in that direction because of people getting together and just doing their own work and for fun.
And this is really popular now with all this true crime
Yes.
and the ID network.
Oh yeah,
and
ID.
all that, yeah.
Oxygen.
My wife's a fan,
All the
so we're,
time.
we're always watching, documentaries
And
about
Oxygen, true
Crime,
crime, all the
oxygen.
time. I think that's what they say.
True crime.
But Christy and I've remained friends. At Christmas I hear from her, and we're gonna follow this through to the end. And like
That's
I said,
amazing.
when it finally happens, I'll be down there. And,
So if you have watched every episode of CSI New York, Miami, and Las Vegas, this is a group for you.
yes, yep. So we have, like I said, about a dozen members in the club. One is Dr. Jennifer Biggestone from the university. She's an associate professor with the anthropology department. So I'm fascinated with forensics and genealogy. That's how they're discovering, researching genealogy.
I was between forensic pathology
Oh, yeah.
and marine biology,
Oh, wow.
and I didn't do either.
And here you are.
I'm a chiropractor. Yeah.
But, that just fascinates me. So I'm glad she's a member of our club. We have a nurse, so, sometimes I get an autopsy, so I slide over to her,
Oh, wow.
And then we have all ages, backgrounds, and males, so you get the male perspective. So it's so nice having all the different perspectives when we talk about something.
And there was a couple rules about being in it. No law enforcement, right? About
Yeah.
being in the club.
I would prefer not.
Yeah. And then was there another rule or something?
I will check, if somebody wants to be in, we'll make sure they're not a criminal.
Background check. Yeah,
Background check a
background
little bit.
check, Gotcha.
So,
Is
participate.
is there a Sherlock Holmes part of the group?
I think it's her. Probably.
She's the Sherlock. She's Sherlock Holmes.
She's Sherlock.
Elementary right here, Watson.
Yeah.
Elementary. Well, that's amazing.
So
That's
do
really
you
cool.
have any cases right now that are you're working on?
Several, lots. In fact, this evening I'm going to be talking to a family member about a man that went missing here in Cape 3 years, 2 months ago.
Wow.
It's never made the news, any news that I could see. And so we're going to start getting the word about him. Interesting enough, a few meetings ago, I just said, we're going to talk about 7 area missing people. I could have talked about 3 or 4 times that many, believe it or not. So I researched all 7 for the quick meeting, and I do believe 6 out of 7 were murder.
Wow.
Yeah, just out of that. The 7th I'm not sure because I can't find much information on him.
So have you guys brought any attention to the authorities
Yes,
of something that they're not even looking into?
yes,
And now that have opened up a case?
yes. There is one case, and I think something that broke over the weekend. I'm hoping. This is a 40-year-old murder, at least 40 years ago in another county near here that I started working on after Monica, and actually went and met with the sheriff, and he ended up spending 2.5 hours with me. So
Wow.
that was surprising. And then afterwards, he went in my suspect list and he went on my timeline. So I did send him all that, and but I think we have something great.
This sounds like a group
as a
that
Saturday night.
you need to be a part of. You love like
Yeah, that sounds
thinking.
fun.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, right?
Yeah.
And you're dealing with true, actual.
But my brain is kind of fantastical sometimes. I would be connecting way too many far.
See, that's why it's
You'd be like,
nice
and that's
having.
who shot Jack again.
Yeah.
It was him.
Yeah.
That's why it's nice having all the different people in the club, because sometimes you get blinders on. I don't think this is what happened.
Dr. Andrew shows up
Yeah.
with a gavel and that hair
Yeah.
with the rolls, I inject. Listen.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Well, look at the links if you want to be a part of this this group. If you want to work with Laura and I don't know, try to figure out cases locally, get the word out, those type of things. Look at the links, click on those links, and become a part of the group. And hopefully, you can help solve some crimes locally, as well as potentially nationally. They talk about those as well.
Yes, we do.
I would say people that maybe want to get into law enforcement later on,
Yeah.
or people like that, it probably would be a good thing to go do for fun, wouldn't
Yeah,
it? I mean,
it is.
to kind of get an idea of how other people might look at crimes. So,
There's
Just
so much to
avoid
talk about.
92 to 95, anything in Scott County.
there you go, 92, 95.
You got
avoid
that?
No, I just don't even look into it.
Oh, gotcha.
Total, yeah,
Okay.
I'm
yeah,
joking.
right, mark
Yeah.
that. That's what I'm gonna quote a movie now. I know this is I don't normally quote movies, but
Okay.
in The Water Boy, she says when the cops show up, she goes, "I was with you between 5 and 9 last night." You tell.
There you go.
That's like
We're gonna
that.
find out you weren't.
Yeah, they're gonna find out we were.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Anything else you'd like to add? Closing out, because this is a really cool thing. So I expect a lot of likes, comments, and I expect a lot of people to check the Facebook group out for sure.
There's another interesting case.
Yeah.
You hear about that? Okay, and in fact, I wrote this one down. I call him Oak Ridge Man. I've been wondering about him for years. His remains were found at the Oak Ridge exit in 1981. Not his skull, but his remains, and they were clothed. And Oak Ridge exit was not there at the time, so he was by the interstate in the woods. Just think of all the cars that kept driving by. He was laying right there by the interstate.
So no head.
But a skull was found.
No skull.
April 1988, 7 years later, in a nearby creek. So I was kind of surprised, that took 7 years to find, because they said it was found nearby. And so I have a description of his clothing. He's estimated to be 20 to 40 years old. And I was talking to Dr. Jen. I mentioned Dr. Jen from the university, and that I really wanted to figure out who this person is. And she was able to get the bones. So
Wow.
yeah, we talked to Cape County Sheriff's Department. I talked to somebody, she talked to somebody, she was able to get the bones. So we're doing the DNA. But one thing we have figured out on this is where they thought it was a suicide, we can now say it was a murder. Because not only did they have a chipped rib, which they told me, but when she got the skull, we realized the skull has a gunshot wound. So we're working on figuring out who that is and figuring out his story.
That's really
Plus,
good.
And what side's it on? Is he right or left-handed? What are we doing? What are we looking at?
Yeah.
This is why you should be a part of the group.
Yeah. So that's one, I've always wondered, so hopefully we're gonna get that one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so if you like or have an eye or ear for crime, like solving those, but you're not part of the community as far as law enforcement, this would be something we'd right up your alley if you like things like CSI, those type of things. But and what's really cool is the legitimacy of it, the amount of information you're actually getting and giving.
Yes.
It's not just sitting around chatting about it, it's actually looking into it. So that's really cool.
And you're helping some families.
And you're helping people out. Close them up.
Get some
Yes.
photos.
I have many families reaching out now, and it's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, that's neat.
That's really the best part.
So all you gotta do is pretty simple. You just click the Facebook link that's in the comments there, and all you gotta do is answer a few questions, and you're part of the group. Come to some of the meetings. I want to call you Mrs. Ritter, but Laura is a really cool person, and really this is something I didn't even know about until earlier this week. So really neat.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing a bunch of people click on that. And if you have any other suggestions, comments, anything, write them below.
Any cases?
Any cases, that's right.
us to
Any
work
cases,
on?
make
Yeah.
sure you write them, and we will get them over to Laura as well. But other than that, thank you for being here. We appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Thanks for sharing. This
I'm
is
excited.
this
we
is
got your
interesting.
info sheet from our marketing lady Terry, and I expected real estate, and I was like, what?
Yeah, what is going on here?
This
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that.
It's neat how
Yeah.
people have their own little side things.
This
like
is my passion.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it.
And little known fact, you might not know about Dr. Andrews here, but he's really into Halloween stuff, and he used to have haunted house and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
that's he's probably going to reach out to you and say, hey, can we borrow those bones?
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's got their fun thing they like to do on the side for sure.
No, this is it for me.
All right, well,
Yeah.
this has been Between Two Spines. This is season 2, episode 2.
Dose.
Yeah, wait, second season. How about that? And this has been a lot of fun for me. I'm looking forward to seeing more cases. But Laura, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any comments, put them below. We'll get them to her. Other than that, we
Click the
will see
links,
you.
like the pages.
That's right.
Ask to join, all that stuff, right?
That's
here.
right. Other than that, we'll see you next episode on Between Two Spines. Have a great day. And like I said, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we're done.